You know what's weird about getting older? When you're a kid, you can't wait to get out of school. Then you grow up. And suddenly you realize there are parts of school you actually miss. The friends, recess, lunch, field trips, the excitement of the first day, even walking through those school hallways. So today we are going back to school. We're talking about what I miss, how much school has changed, and what I'd tell the younger version of myself if I could go back to my school days. So with that said, class is in session. Let's talk. Hey everybody, welcome back to Mostly Me, Occasionally Wise. I'm your host Brian, and welcome to episode 26. It's officially back to school season, which means backpacks are being packed, school supplies are being bought, schedules are being figured out, and parents everywhere are asking the same question. How does summer go by so fast? And then all the other kids are asking, how do I get out of going back to school? And honestly, I understand both sides, because when I was a kid, the last thing I wanted to hear was it's time to go back to school. I really wanted summer to last forever. But now I actually miss parts of it. Not the homework, not the test, not the waking up early, and definitely not being called out on when I absolutely had no idea what the teacher was talking about. But there are a lot of things about school that I remember fondly. And that's what we are going to talk about today. We are going to take a trip back to school. We're going to talk about what I miss. We're going to talk about how school has changed from when I was growing up to what kids experience today. We're going to talk about the actual back to school experience. And then I'm going to answer the one question I've thought a lot about. If I could go back and talk to the younger version of myself while he was still in school, what would I tell him? But before we head back into the classroom, let's get into Dad Life Debrief. So if you're new to the show, Dad Life Debrief is an opportunity for you as the listener to join me as a husband, family man, chaos coordinator, everything in between leading up to the newest episode of the podcast. This week was obviously back to school week. And the thing is, we're experiencing life in different phases. We have 3 kids. We have a 19-year-old. We have a soon-to-be 14-year-old and a 4-year-old. So the 19-year-old has got her own apartment. She has got a teaching job at a school, which is really great. And she's also starting college again. So we're wishing her the best of luck, while stepping back and allowing her to grow up. And it's a struggle at times, because there are times, when I'm giving, my daughter a hug or just talking to her about life, that I'll look across the table and I see that, 3-year-old, that 4-year-old that was just attached to my hip, hung on every word I said, and now she's doing things on her own. I couldn't be more proud of her. And then we have the 13-year-old who is starting junior high. Where has time gone? We adopted both the 14-year-old, and I'll go ahead and say he's 14. He turns 14 Friday. Friday. Oh my gosh, Friday. He turned 14 Friday, but we adopted him and his brother 3 years ago. Honestly, when someone asks me about the boys, I feel like we've had them since the day they were born. So I honestly lose track of how long we've had them, because I just have enjoyed being their father that much. But dropping him off for junior high yesterday, I didn't get emotional until I got home, because I didn't want to embarrass him. But it's amazing to see how much he has grown over the last few years since he's moved in with us. And I'm just so proud of him. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of the relationships he has with his friends. I'm proud of the relationship he has with, with his mom, and the relationship that we have developed. It's It's amazing. And then, of course, his voice is getting deeper, and it's just, he's growing hair under his armpits, and just all the things. And as much as I give him a hard time about it, it just, it breaks my heart, you know? That's my oldest boy, you know? I'm not ready for it. I'm just not ready for it. And then, of course, the 4-year-old had school off yesterday. They were closed for a teacher work day. So he started his new class today at his preschool. And the preschool he goes to does a really great job, especially on the first days of school. They put up this balloon arch, and they're playing music, and they're just really getting the kids hyped for their official first day of their new class. And so when he saw all of that, his face lit up, and he was just so excited. And when I dropped him off after giving him a hug and a kiss, oh, man. It's another one of those things that you experience with, or that I experienced with the 14-year-old, and that's just how much they have grown, or how much he has grown over the last few years. I mean, and he's a daddy's boy, and he is attached to my hip, 24/7, and I'm just so proud of all of our kids. I really am. And to have this blessing to be their father it's truly a gift from God. It really is. I don't think I would want life going any other way right now. I am just loving every second of it. And I thank God for the blessing he's given us. I thank God for Becca being beside me every step of the way, because I know she's going through what I'm going through watching our kids grow up. And it's nice to have her to lean on, or to lay my head on her shoulder and cry at night when I've realized, that our boys and, just our kids in general are just growing up. And it's going by so fast. I've mentioned in previous episodes, one of the biggest quotes that I hang on to as life just speeds up is, the older you get, the faster time goes. And there's no bigger truth than that. So, man, life is great. It was rough dropping the kids off yesterday for junior high and, preschool today. And then, of course, watching my daughter just succeed in life and just killing it. Very proud dad. But let's get a message from our sponsor, and then we will move on with the show. Before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Opus Clips. If you've ever wanted to create content for TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, but didn't want to spend the hours editing, you need to check out Opus Clips. It's the AI editing software I use to create clips from every episode of Mostly Me, Occasionally Wise. It automatically finds the best moments, adds captions, and saves me hours every week. So, if you're a creator or thinking about becoming one, you can support the show by signing up using my affiliate link, which is over on the Mostly Me, Occasionally Wise Facebook page, and it will also be in the show description wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. So, with that said, let's get on with the show. When I think about school, the first thing I miss is probably the simplest thing, and that's getting to see my friends every day. When you're in school, you don't really understand how unique and special that really is. You get to see the same people every day. You sit next to them, you get to eat lunch together, you hang out in between classes, you get to see them at recess. You talk to them before school starts, you get to talk to them, after school is over with. It's just normal. But once you graduate, all of that changes. Some people stay in your life, some disappear completely. And I have been fortunate enough to have the same best friend since 5th grade. And I know how rare that is. I know how special that is. And it's something that I have cherished and have, talked to my kids about, and how important maintaining that relationship with that one best friend truly is, because My best friend, Robbie, we have been through it all, through the thick and the thin. We have been through a lot of life experiences together, highs and lows, you name it. Robbie has been there beside me through it all. And I cherish it. I love it. And he is definitely going to be one that when we're old and gray and we're cranky, we're going to be talking smack to each other, but it's going to be done with love because we already talk smack to each other as it is. Robbie, if you're listening, man, this relationship that we have and have had since 5th grade it means a great deal to me. And I don't think I could have enjoyed life as much as I have without you by my side, brother. So again, I appreciate it. And you're ugly. So he really is ugly. The next thing I miss is recess. Recess was basically the greatest part of the school day. You could run around, play games, talk to your friends. You got outside, and for about 30 minutes, you weren't thinking about math. You weren't thinking about spelling. You weren't even thinking about whatever assignment was waiting for you. You were just a kid. And let's be honest, adults need recess. We do. Imagine your boss walking into the office and saying, "All right, everybody, you've been working hard. Let's go outside and play kickball or just have recess." Man, I would be up and moving outside before my boss even finished his sentence. Although I'd probably have to stretch first because I'm old. I'm 42. But I'd be out there. And then the other thing I miss is lunch. School lunch was an experience. Sometimes food was great. Sometimes, let's just say the cafeteria had some creative interpretations of food. But again, it really wasn't about the food. It was about sitting down with your friends. You had about 30 to 45 minutes, however long your lunch period was, to talk about everything. Sports, movies, games, who liked who, what was happening in classrooms, what we were all doing after school. And it was face to face. Nobody was sitting there scrolling through their phones. There was no group text. You just talked. And then there were field trips. I didn't care where we were going. Field trips meant you weren't going to have to be in class. And that was enough for me. And the bus ride was half the fun. You get to sit with your friends, talk, laugh, probably get yelled at by a teacher at least once. And somehow the ride home always felt shorter. And then there were school assemblies. Let's not forget school assemblies. Some were exciting. Some were incredibly boring. And some were the kind where you sat in gym for an hour wondering, why am I here? But even those are memories now. And that's the strange thing. Things that felt completely ordinary at the time become some of the things you remember the most. I also miss school book fairs. School book fairs. Oh, man. There was something about walking into that room and seeing all those books. You look around, pick something out. You maybe find a book about dinosaurs, or maybe a joke book, or maybe a book about, whatever you were interested in at the time. Then you would buy pencils and erasers and maybe a poster of some sort, and then you bring it home. And there was just something cool about having a new book. And then, let's not forget about school pictures. School picture day was serious business. Your parents, they went out of their way to make sure you look good. You get your hair fixed, you put on something nice, and then you sit in front of that background and take a picture. And somehow, and it's 100% true, you'd end up looking like you were a hostage. But those pictures became important later. I still laugh at some of the school pictures I've taken over the years. Because years down the road, you look at them and think, wow, I remember that kid. And then let's not forget the last day of school. There's nothing like that feeling. You walk out of that building knowing no homework, no tests, no teachers, no alarm clocks. Summer was officially here. You feel like you've been, released from prison. And then 3 months later, you're standing there with a backpack thinking, wait, do I really have to go back to school? And that's what makes this conversation so interesting. The experience I remember is very different from what kids experience today. Now, granted, there are some things that are the same. Kids still complain about their homework. They still get nervous the first day of school. They still make new friends. They have teachers they love, and some teachers they probably don't. But the actual way school works, that has changed a lot. So, with that said, let's compare them. Let's talk about school then versus school now. Let's start with something simple. Textbooks. When I was in school, textbooks were actual books. Big, heavy, awkward books. And you carried them around. And if you had several classes requiring textbooks, you were carrying at least 40 pounds in your arms. I mean, you didn't need a gym membership whatsoever. And today, so much information is digital. Kids have laptops, tablets, Chromebooks, digital textbooks, online assignments. And honestly, that's pretty amazing. I wish we'd have had that when I was younger. But at the same time, there was something about having an actual textbook. You'd flip through it, highlight something, write notes in the margin. Sometimes you'd even find someone else's notes from a previous year. Don't trust the teacher. Chapter 6 is on the test. Good luck. Those were basically ancient student reviews. And then there's the chalkboard, or later, the whiteboard. Then came the overhead projector. If you remember overhead projectors, congratulations, we're old. The teacher would put a transparency on the projector and then project it on the wall. And if you needed to write something, you'd have to use one of those special markers. And we'd all watch the teacher, work their magic. Today, teachers can pull up videos, interactive, presentations, websites, digital assignments. The technology today is just so incredible. And then there was research. If you needed to write a report when I was growing up, you went to the library, you looked things up, you used an encyclopedia, you took notes. You actually had to find the information. And today, a student can type a question into a search engine and thousands of answers appear instantly. And now we're entering the age of AI. And that's something I couldn't have imagined when I was in school. The only thing we knew about AI was the fact that it worked at Skynet and it was going to eventually take over the world. And, Sarah Connor was going to have to save your life. If you don't understand that reference, I'm old. But if you do understand that reference, congratulations. You're old too. And with that said, the idea that you could ask a computer to help you explain something, summarize something, brainstorm something, that's crazy to me. And it also creates an entirely new challenge for teachers. Because now they don't have to ask, did you do your homework? They may have to ask, did you actually do your homework? And that's a completely different problem. Then there's communication. When I was in school, if your parents wanted to know how you were doing, they'd have to talk to your teacher. Maybe there was a report card, maybe there was a parent-teacher conference. And today, parents can sometimes see grades, assignments, attendance, and school announcements right on their phone. You can know what your kid has coming up before they even tell you, which is great until your kids until your kid says, I don't have homework. And the phone says, the assignment is due tomorrow. Uh-oh. Looks like technology just became a tattletale. And then, of course, with all of that being on the phone, let's talk about the phones themselves. When I was in school, you didn't have smartphones. You weren't texting your friends in between classes. You weren't taking pictures of everything. You weren't checking social media. If you wanted to talk to your friend after school, you called their house. And if their parent answered, you had to go through the interrogation. Hi, is Mike there? Who's calling? Brian. Brian who? Brian from school. What do you want? Can I talk to Mike? You had to earn the conversation. Now kids can communicate instantly. Texting, video calls, group chats, social media, it's a completely different world. I think there are good things and bad things about that. Technology can make learning easier. It can give students access to information. It can help teachers. But there is something about the old school experience that I think was valuable. There were fewer distractions. When class started. You didn't have a phone buzzing in your pocket. And when school ended. That separation was nice. But I wouldn't trade today's technology entirely. If I had today's technology when I was in school, I would have absolutely loved it. I just would have had to have been more responsible enough to actually use it in school, because I would have gotten in a lot of trouble with it. Which, to be honest, like I said, I don't know if I would have been. And of course, those are just a few things, that I've talked about. I can honestly continue talking about how things are different between now and then. I could bring up lockers. I can bring up school picture day. I could talk about just the first day of school in general. And I could probably make the whole episode about this, but I really want to move on and talk about something I wish, I honestly wish I could actually do. And that's go back. Not change everything. Not to relive my entire childhood, but just to sit down with the younger version of myself for just a few minutes. Maybe in a classroom. Maybe sitting at a desk. And just tell him a few things I wish I'd had known. Because if I could give, the younger me advice specifically about school, I'd have a feeling he'd need it. The first thing I tell myself is, don't worry so much about what everybody else thinks. School can be a tough place, especially when you're trying to figure out who you are. You're trying to fit in. You're trying to figure out where you belong. You worry about what people think of you, and sometimes you change yourself just to fit in. I tell the younger me, don't. Just be yourself. You're gonna find your people. You don't need everybody to like you. You just need a few good people who appreciate you for who you are. I'd also say, don't let one bad grade make you think you're stupid. You're gonna fail tests. You're gonna get bad grades. You're gonna have subjects that you're terrible at. That doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you're learning. And honestly, sometimes you're just bad at something, and that's okay. Not everybody is good at everything. And that's the truth. I'd also tell myself, ask questions. If you don't understand something, ask. Don't sit there pretending you understand because you're embarrassed, because there's a good chance somebody else doesn't understand either. And the teacher's job is to teach you. Moving on, I also tell myself, pay attention to the teachers who actually care about you. When you're young, you don't always realize how much teachers do. Some teachers are just teaching a class. Others genuinely care. They remember your name. They notice when something's wrong. They encourage you. They push you. They tell you that you're capable of more than you think. Those teachers matter. Remember them. I had a teacher like that, Mr. Barger. He doesn't teach anymore. He's actually a lawyer here in town, where I live. And we keep in touch through Facebook. But he is one of those teachers that I will never forget because of what he saw in me, the interest we had as far as music goes. He was more than a teacher. He was a friend. And I value that relationship so much, especially growing up. It meant a lot to me. And it's still, I still use some of the things that he taught me growing up. I use now when it comes to teaching my kids. So if you have a teacher like that and you're able to keep in touch with them, keep in touch with them, because those are the special ones. You can't let those ones get away. The next thing is I tell myself to enjoy your friends. Not every friendship lasts forever, and that's okay. Some people are going to be your best friends for years. Some are going to be your best friend for one school year. Some are going to disappear after graduation. And that doesn't make the friendship less important. Just enjoy it while you're in it. I'd also tell myself, don't be afraid to participate. Raise your hand, join clubs, try out for the team, go to the dance, go to the school events. You're gonna feel awkward. You're gonna embarrass yourself at times. You might even fail, but you'll have a story. And those stories are way better than regrets. And finally, I tell myself, you're going to survive school. Whatever seems like the biggest problem today, it probably won't be the biggest problem forever. The tests that you think are the end of the world, it isn't. The embarrassing moments, you'll laugh about it someday. The person who doesn't like you, you'll meet plenty of other people. School feels like your entire world when you're in it, but it's not. It's one chapter, and there's a lot more to it after that. So now let's get to you guys. I posted a couple of questions on Facebook and on TikTok, and you guys came out. You showed out, you responded, and I appreciate it 100%. The first question was, what's one of your favorite memories about being in school? Uncle Rob, who is going to be on an episode in the next couple of weeks, I can't wait to have him on. He said elementary, playing touch football that always devolved into tackling. 100% true. And then, of course, he added high school, being in a garage band, which I was in a garage band. Amazing stuff, amazing memories. D from TikTok said, senior pranks. They were always amazing to witness, and you hardly ever got caught. 100% true. I honestly can't remember what our senior prank was. I don't even know if we did one. I may have to ask around. And then, of course, Marcus on Facebook said recess. 100%. Recess was amazing. The next question I posed for everyone on social media was, what's the best advice that you would give to the younger you when it came to surviving school? Suze from TikTok said, when you are 15, you're going to decide that you are done with any and all drama and graduate from high school. Go to college and find yourself you're doing it right. Absolutely. The next one is, it's okay to stay in the shadows, and that's from Jana Marie. It's okay to stay in the shadows. You'll be okay. That's not a bad thing at all. I know I have actually a lot of friends that flew under the radar, and they survived it. They weren't picked on, they weren't bullied or anything like that. Susan, 11260 from TikTok said, skip the smoking area. Yep. I don't even know where, like, for us growing up, the smoking area was always the bathroom, and I never understood that. Because why would you want to smoke in the same place that you did your other business? I don't know. We were young, we were stupid. I didn't smoke, but I had always wondered that. And Jen from TikTok said, don't retaliate when getting picked on. You'll have less detentions. 100% true. And keep your comments to yourself. Yes, a lot of times I'm very sarcastic. My comments when someone would try to bully me, a lot of my smart-aleck responses either got me hit or it would evolve into something bigger, probably more than it should have been. Let's see, what's the next one? H. Climber from TikTok says, speak when necessary. Otherwise, head down and do your work. Most of the loudmouths burn out at the end of high school. 100% true. Thank you guys for continuing to respond on social media. It's really cool to see the advice and the memories from you guys because, you know, everyone that responded, different ages, different experience in high school. Great. Thank you guys so much, and I love you for it. Please continue to do that. It makes a lot of this a lot of fun. So with that said, this is episode 26, Back to School. And I think I finally figured out why this time of year makes me nostalgic. And it's not because I want to go back and take another math test. It's definitely not because I want homework. And, you know, I'm definitely not volunteering to take another pop quiz. I miss the experience. I miss walking into school and seeing my friends. I miss recess. I miss lunch. I miss the field trips. You know, the books, the book fairs, the school pictures. I miss that first day feeling. And even though school has changed a lot, there are still some things that haven't changed. Kids are still trying to figure out who they are. They're still making friends. They're still making mistakes. They're learning how to deal with people. And they're trying to figure out where they fit. So if you're a parent getting your kids ready for school for another year, maybe remember these things. The homework and the schedules and the school supplies are important, but the experiences are too. The friendships, the teachers, the memories, the moments that seem completely ordinary right now, those might be the things they remember years from now. And if you're a kid listening heading back to school, don't worry so much about being perfect. Don't worry so much about what everybody thinks. Ask questions, try new things, make friends, listen to your teachers, and don't let one bad grade convince you that you're not capable. You have a lot of school ahead of you, and someday you're going to look back on it, and you might even miss it. Although, if I'm 100% real with you, you probably won't miss the homework. So, with that said, if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you you subscribe, follow, and share Mostly Me Occasionally Wise with someone who could use a little back-to-school nostalgia. You can reach me at mostlymecontact@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out the Mostly Me Occasionally Wise Facebook page. And again, I want to thank our sponsor, Opus Clips, for always just being there 100% and helping me get my stuff out on social media. And of course, thank you for spending some time with me. And until next time, stay mostly you, occasionally wise.